Just one feedback about the work requirements. When the time for the work requirements ended, that will be on the 17th of November. Then it will open a new one for you to practice. It is too late to have this 3 out of 5 work requirements. You need to take the final exam, but for practicing, training, this will be open again. So 17th, there will be a new unit in plans, so you find it on It's Learning. Let's move on then to look at the next topic. What we covered so far, we talked about the hockey stick, and we talked about industrial revolution using the isocost curves, the first model, and then we continue now by introducing, and also we in this section we introduce SCORE, and she has this video. I think it's a very interesting video, and she starts by asking the question, or in her video, she has this question: what does a society do with its productivity dividend? So that's a question she asks, and also she explained from her research. She finds that countries that not only as a solution to work more and more and more, countries that also put emphasis on leisure time and other things than just working. There's also a positive thing about pollution in such countries. So that's a point to make. We look into the model then, and as we find it here, it's all about preferences. We start then to talk about preferences. So then this is an example, things going on in our minds, and we, as economists, we try to explain this, looking at one thing, compare it with something else, using the opportunity cost to compare, and we then use indifferent curves. So it's preferences and limited resources. So the example, it is from Karim, and we then look at in different curves, explaining them same utility along a curve. So it's the same utility along the curve, and also, what else? What more? We can look at the slope in a point. We can look at the MRS, marginal rate of substitution. That is the slope of the indifference curve. And if we look at example here, we a way to do it would be then to look at the slope, the MRS. If we take the height, this is the height, and we divide it by the width. So then it's always the width here is 1 unit. So here it's also 1 unit. So it's MRS. It is the height divided by the width. And then, of course, the MRS then up here is higher than MRS down here. So let's ask some questions here. So we have some points along one curve here, and what's new in the other one, it is also budget line. It's also a budget line. So the red one is a budget line, and the budget line, it has nothing to do with our preferences, how we like, feel something. It has to do with the possibilities in the market. So the possibilities in the market, it is typically when you have less free time, you have more time for work, and the more you work, the more you have consumption. So when what we don't see here, it is the work, but it's the opposite of free time. So when the free time goes down, okay, then it's more work, and of course more consumption. So that's the budget line, and let's then look at some examples here. So the first one, let's look at, here is a B and here is an A. So let's look at the first thing, to compare then point A and B. So what do they have in common? What do they have in common? They are on the same budget line, so it's possible. So it's two options, that's possible. So common, same then budget line, so it's possible. It's possible. But what is different? What is different? Then we typically look at in different curves. We look at, in a way, they are on the same in different curves. Well, so we can add something, what's common here. We can add, they are same in different curve. So they are same utility. So being in point A or being in point B, it's both. It's possible, but it's also the same utility because they are at the same in different curve. But what's different? Well, what's different then? We need to look at the marginal rate of substitution. Here. We need to look at the MRS. MRS A, and here MRS B. So here we find that MRS B, or the absolute value, actually that is a minus to both, so the absolute value of B is higher than MRS A. So take a minute, try to explain what's the difference here. What's the difference? What does it mean that MRS B is higher? What does it mean?
Att jag vill ha mer consumption än resultat.
Ja.
Det tycker jag är kul. Och så hade du genom ansiktet.
Nei, men det er ikke det det pleier å være, da? At de er mer villige til det, liksom?
Ja, mens på A så er de mer villige til å ha mer resultat.
Ja. Ja, det er vel det. De jobber mer fordi de er villige til det, og de vil ha mer fornøyd. Så vi får jo se om det er bra. Tenk at siste forelesning er jeg må sende familien min av huset når jeg er sånn.
Ja, samme.
Eller mamma kan bli. En kan bli sånn veldig sånn. Ja. Pappa driver og pusser opp badet, så han driver og sager hele tiden, sånn, så det er sånn. Du får ikke lov til det.
Men det kommer til å være mye mer sånn.
Ja, jeg håper mamma er sånn, skal du ha noe spyttig mat? Og det er egentlig det eneste sånn, ha noe diggsnack, sånn motivasjon. Og så bare ro, egentlig.
Så det må nok være en, for vi har jo også
Okay.
Ja, kan ikke drive og gå med hunden.
Yeah.
Ja, det er sant.
First of all, being in point B, that is having very little free time because you work a lot. But working a lot, then you can have a lot of consumption. But what about A? That's the opposite. Then it is, you have a lot of free time, but you have very little consumption. But at the margins, here we look at, let's say it's our free time number 10, and here it's number 22. So when we look at MRS, we compare the last hour. So we compare the value of free time hour 10 with the value of free time hour 22. And what do we find in A? We find that it's not much worth to us. Why not? Because we have that many hours free time. So the last hour, hour number 22, is not worth much. Then MRS is very low. So, meaning that if you get a little bit more consumption, you say it's okay. What's the opposite? In 10, hour number 10, what is it worth to the person? is worth a lot more. Why? Because you have so little. You have so little. 1 minute to explain to neighbor, huh? Explain.
Jeg vet ikke. Men ja, i A så det liksom, det så mye fritid, og det
Understand the difference between indifferent curves. Being along this curve, you're equally happy, but B is, you can look at MRS, and in our number 10 is worth much more, and that's why then the MRS in B is a higher number than in point A. So let's look at more. Let's look at possibility comparing point C and E. Again, common and different. So, what if you look at point C and E? Is something that they have in common. What could it be? Well, it could be that the slope, the curve, it looks like it's almost the same. It's almost the same. So it, in common, MRS, almost the same. But what is different? What is different here? Well, what's different? Be that you from C then you find that there's an option here that you can have from C and option more of both. You can have more of both. So this is something you like. You like more free time, and you also like more consumption. So where you end up? Well, in this solution, it's the optimal would be in E, but there's the point to make that more of both, and in other words, you get a higher level. Explained by the indifference curve. So you get a higher. And then we come to the optimal, and we ask what characterizes the optimal solution. What characterizes the optimal solution? So that is point E. And the important thing to say that in point E, then the slope of the two curves, they are the same. Slope of the two curves are the same. So the MRS that we talked about, but we also need to mention the slope of the red curve, the slope of the budget line. So the slope here is called MRT, marginal rate of transformation. So it's equals the marginal rate of transformation. And it is, remember, what's the slope? What determines the slope? It is the wage. Given by the wage. By the wage. Because this is the thing we will do in the next topic. We will discuss what will you do if your wage increase. Will you work more or less? That's a topic. But so far it is what determines this one. Then we can use both MRS and MRT. And a way to explain it, you remember what do we typically do to explain an optimal solution? We typically look at something else. So let's compare it. If point E is the optimal solution, then point D cannot be optimal. So let's a discussion then. Why not point D? Why not point D? So how should we explain then? So in point E, then MRS equals MRT. So then in point D, they are not the same. What's the difference? What's the difference in point D? In point D, then the MRS in point D is higher in point D than the MRS in point D is higher than the MRS in point E. So how can we explain then to argue why we end up in E? It is because in E they are the same, but in point D they are not. So how do we explain? If you look at solution D, how is it? It is less. We can add. Let's add so we see it clearly. Huh? Let's add here. Let's say it's this one is 17. So it's 17. So here it's done here. Let's look at this one here. So in this case then, this is the free time. This is free time, and this is work. So this time is it's 7 hours. 7 hours, and the rest then is free time. So in point B, what's wrong then? Well, it's too little free time. You work too much. So how can we explain that it's not optimal to work that much as in point D? Well, we use this MRS again, and we do so by looking at hour 17 and compare it with hour 12. So, 1 minute again. How do we explain hour 12 and compare it with hour 17? How do we do it?
Er det akkurat det?
Jeg står is på Eidsvoll. Det er på toppen der.
Ja. Ja, kanskje det er så sykt. Ja. 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 Det er jo ganske stor forskjell, synes jeg. Hvor tenker litt hva timen har vært her.
So, what about our free time number 12? Well, the person says that what's the value of this hour? It's worth MRSD. So it's worth more than our number 17. And our number 17 is exactly the same as what you actually get in the market when you choose to pick that many hours of free time. So if we look at the point here, why not point D? Because then the value of last hour free time is worth more. It's worth more than in point E. It's worth more than in point E. And the value in point E is exactly the same as what you get in the market. So optimal point, that is point E, then your opinion of last hour free time, optimal point E, your opinion of last hour free time is exactly the same as what you get in the market. So there's some way to explain that the or to explain the optimal by compare it with something else. And also this important thing about at the margins. So the MRS or MRT, it doesn't explain about all the units, it explains about the last unit. So it's unit number 17. 17, that's where the MRS, as the personal opinion, equals the reality, the situation in the market. So this is some topics covering the thing about in different curves and budget lines. Let's then look at how we discuss this topic by changing the wage. So if we look at the diagram, we find that the difference here Why is it a change like this? It is because we discuss higher wage. And in your case, we don't measure the solution. We just give you an example of solutions, and we ask you to explain what happens here. And then we need to difference between substitution and income effect. So substitution effect, that's the obvious one. That's the obvious one. Because when the wage increase, opportunity cost argues that then you will work more. So this is the substitution effect. Work more because higher opportunity cost of free time. So when you compare working or free time, if then your salary increase, well, opportunity cost would say that I go for more work. So that's the obvious thing. And then comes the other, it is income effect. And that is a Winnie the Pooh. This thing about, I would like more of everything. So I would like more consumption, and I would also like more free time. So these effects go in a different direction. If we look at statistics, we see there's a difference here between France, Germany, Netherlands, and particularly then United States, but also a little bit also like Japan and UK. What we can do then would be to use these two topics, the concept of substitution effect and income effect, to explain the difference between the United States and France or Germany or Netherlands. So how can you explain the difference between the United States and France using the income and substitution effect? You get the question? Think it over. How can you use these two concepts to explain the difference between the two?
Assume I have to do that. Så har de språk
På USA og Tyskland.
Okej. Det jobber jo mange flere ting i USA, ja. Eller er det det er det jeg tenker på? Nei, det er ganske jevnt. Men Tyskland er kjempemye. Det er mer effektivt.
We find that in France, Germany and Netherlands, then the working hours going down, it must be that the dominant effect is the income effect. So there's the dominant effect. Dominant effect. It is the income. While here, it's almost the same, at least for the United States. It's almost the same. So a way to explain it would be to say the balancing the two effects. So if it's going up, like if we go back in time before 1960, we find that almost all countries, they had higher working more hours, and that was typically because the substitution effect dominated. But in many European countries now, we have statistics saying that it's more of the income effect that dominates. What is it to say here? We start then. We start in A, and in this example, we end in B. So in this case, we end, which is fine here, we end with then less free time. So less free time, then we understand that it's the substitution effect that dominates. So in case of D here, we understand that it's the substitution effect that dominates. While out here, if we end up here, it's the income. It's the income effect. So then let's look at an exercise again. Then I go to page 12. Let me go to page 12 and look at here we are. It's 11. So if one of them is right, the other three would be wrong. So if we look at the first one, the person does not need to choose between B and C, since both points are on the budget line. The individual can choose both B and C at the same time. Is it right? It's not? Why not? So, what happens here? It is that the start point A and then move, we shift this up because of higher wage. So what would then be solutions here? Would point B be possible? Would it be possible? Yes. Would point C be possible? Yes. We could add more points to it. We could add along here. All these are possible. So there are many possible. So the person does not need to choose between B and C, since both points are on the budget line. The individual can choose both B and C at the same time. But let's look at the others one then. B. If the person chooses B, it means that the substitution effect is stronger than the income. What about this one? What about B? That's right. So B is the... That's right. We can come back to A. What about C then? A rational person will never choose more free time if they are being paid better off. Therefore, we can conclude that point C is choose of C. Why is this wrong? Why is it wrong? How do you explain that it's wrong? Because we have something called the income effect. So the richer you get, the more you would like also of free time. So it's not only the substitution effect, we also having then income effect. And D, if the person chooses C, it means that the substitution effect is stronger than the income effect. That is wrong, and we already answered it. So back to A. What is wrong with A? What is wrong? The person does not need to choose between C and B and C, since both points are on the budget line. The individual can choose both B and C at the same time. You cannot do that at the same time. So either point B or point C, not at the same time. We have one topic left. Let's look at it after a break, 15 minutes.